Hello and welcome to episode 17 of Giddy Knits. I am Helen, your host, and today is Thursday, the 5th of September. I'm recording as my new routine. I'm recording on a Thursday, but the video will be going live on YouTube on Saturday. But just so you know where I am in the week, today is Thursday, the 5th of September. And I am coming to you as usual from Surrey in the United Kingdom, where I live with my husband Tom and my two boys Arthur, who is 3.5, nearly 4, and Jasper, who is 11 months old today. And can you believe that in a month's time he's going to be a year old? It just seems ridiculous. It's gone so fast. I can't believe he's 11 months already. Okay, so this is a knitting podcast for any of you who have stumbled across it. If that's what you're looking for, then I hope you enjoy. If not, then that's fine. Goodness knows how you found me. Okay, so I want to start off by just saying welcome to any viewers who've watched me before, my existing viewers. Thank you very much for coming by week after week to check me out. I'm glad you're enjoying what I'm putting out there, and hopefully you continue to do so. And also hello to anyone who's new and watching me for the first time. Thank you very much for checking me out. I hope you enjoy what you see. And yeah, if you do enjoy what you're seeing, or if you haven't done so before, then please feel free to hit subscribe down below somewhere, because that will keep you up to date with any videos that I update. I tend to update any videos I upload. I tend to upload a video every 2 weeks. And yeah, and also anyone that's watching, if you enjoy it, please hit the thumbs up button, which is somewhere down here as well, because that just gets the video out there a little bit more and lets more people know about it. Right, show notes for the episode, before I forget, they can be found on my website, and they can also be found in our Ravelry group. They will be linked down below in the drop down box, but my website is www.giddyyarns.com. And you can find the show notes in the, there's a Giddy Knits podcast section of the website, and there's a show notes blog there. And also we have a Ravelry group, which is Giddy Knits podcast on Ravelry. You can either find that through the link below, or just by searching Giddy Knits in the groups tab on Ravelry. Hands going everywhere this week. Right, you can find me as Giddy Helen on Instagram and Ravelry. And you can find my hand-dyed yarn. I am the dyer behind Giddy Yarns, and you can find my yarn on Instagram as at Giddy Yarns. On my website, which I mentioned before, is giddyarns.com. And we also have a Facebook page as well, which is obviously Giddy Yarns on Facebook. So you can find me in any of those places. I think that's everything in the way of the introduction stuff. My mind is not quite catching up this week, but I'm sure I've remembered everything that I need to tell you. Yeah, that's it. Giddy Yarns, Giddy Helen. Okay, I have no admin-y stuff this week. Yeah, I have no admin-y stuff this week, really. So what I have for you this week is I have got some finished objects. I've got a work in progress. I've got quite a lot of new cast-ons. I have got some yarny goodness, I've got some shop news, and then I'll finish off as usual with just a little behind the scenes rambly section about what's been going on in the last couple of weeks. Okay, so I will start straight in with some finished objects. Right, I have got 2 finished objects for you today, and they are both socks. So, my first finished object, I finished my Eiger socks. And these are a gift, a Christmas gift from my mum. So this is my first Christmas gift. So I'm very pleased to have those done. I knit these out of Stylecraft Head Over Heels, which is their new sock yarn brand. I don't quite know. Their new sock yarn, basically. And it was very, very nice. It's a 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon. And I would say it was comparable with the likes of Opal and Regia and things like that. It was quite reasonable. but it's very nice to knit with. It's just a standard, it feels like a standard commercial sock yarn, yeah, which for gift knitting is perfect. This is the Eiger colourway, and I don't have the label, I've mislaid it somewhere, so I can't tell you the number, but the colourway is Eiger. They're all currently named after mountains. And yeah, I shoved in a Drops Fable heel because I didn't want to break up the stripe. This is just my standard German short row heel. And yeah, it's just a vanilla sock. The thing that I found really interesting about this yarn, which I think I mentioned before, is that the colour repeat is so long I didn't get a repeat in the sock. As you can see, I started at the top of the sock here. I don't know if you can quite see the colours there, but the cuff stripes between the blue and the kind of minty colour, the green, the blue and the green, the cuff stripes between that, and then goes into the blue, down to the purple. So I still had a significant chunk of pattern. I mean, this would have returned, you'd have got more cream, and then it would have striped back into the green, and then this, on the return, this bit here where it stripes back into the blue, is where the repeat would have started again. So I had you know, a good couple of inch chunk of pattern that I didn't use in these socks. And they're not a particularly short sock either. I mean, they're a lady's size 6. UK size 6. Is that a US 8? I'm not sure. I think it might be. But yeah, so the pattern repeat is really long. I did match them, and I am quite pleased with how they matched. I think I did pretty well there. Tiny little bit maybe out here, but you really can't tell in the full length of the sock. So yeah, I'm very pleased with those, and yeah, as I said, they're the first thing that are going to be going into my kind of Christmas gift basket for Christmas knitting. My mum wanted some socks, but she's very much the type of person that will stick things in the washing machine. She wouldn't really hand wash things, so I wanted to go commercial so that there weren't going to be any issues with that. And I was trying to work it out. I think these are actually pair number 12 or 13 for the year. I should have thought about that before I sat down, but I think they're pair number 13 for the year, but obviously they don't count towards the box of socks cal because they're not from me. The box of socks cal, if anybody's interested, is knit along that's being hosted by Kristen of the Voulenvine Yarns and the Yarngasm podcast, where you knit 12 pairs of socks for yourself in a year and put them in a box. But these aren't for me, so they don't count. But I think they are pair number 13 that I've knitted for the year. Okay, my next finished object, I think I said everything I wanted to say about those. My next finished object is also a pair of socks, so I'll just stick these on the sock blockers. I finished my Yorkville socks. And the Yorkville socks is part of the New York sock collection, which if you've been watching regularly, you'll know that I've been taking part in this year. And this is pattern number 5, I believe. I glance back here because these are 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is pattern number 5. All the patterns have now been released, so I'm a little bit behind. I've got two more to catch up, but I've really enjoyed this. So now that they're on the sock blockers, let's show you. I can't remember if I had a half finished object of these last week or not. I think I probably did, so you've probably seen it before. But this is pattern number 5, and it's just a lovely textured pattern. Let's see if I can get close up without. The camera was being nice and focusing for me earlier, but it's deciding not to now. There we go. So it's just a lovely textured pattern. Really, really simple textured pattern. And yeah, I've got a finished object. I've got both of them finished. And I'm really, really happy with them. I just thought these colours are so fun together. And this yarn is, I mentioned before, it's a Drops Fable base. It's their undyed, well, their natural kind of creamy coloured base. I think it's like colour 100 or something like that, which I used to practice a lot of dyeing when I wanted to try things out. And I was trying out a new technique on these And in fact, the green I've mentioned before, the green I dyed with food colouring ages ago when I was first starting to practice, starting to have a go at dyeing things, and I was doing it with food colouring. The purple was done with proper acid dyes, but it's just fun. But it is a gorgeous, get your nice clothes top again, gorgeous sort of tonal pinks and purples. Hopefully it's not getting blown out too much. That looks a bit better to me anyway. And it's knit up beautifully. And I have actually, I know I mentioned before that I was tempted to recreate this for the shop, and I have done. I have recreated this for the shop, so I will show you that in shop news. But yeah, really, really fun pair of socks. So that's the Yorkville socks from the New York Sock Club, which is a sock club by Mina Phillips of Knitting Expat, which I don't think I mentioned. And the yarn, as I said, is the Drops Fable base, which is a 75% virgin wool and 25% polyamide. And again, it's quite not a cheap. That sounds horrible when you say cheap, isn't it? But it's inexpensive. Let's go with that. It's a very inexpensive commercial sock yarn, the Drops Fable. But there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you want a bit. I feel sometimes I like an inexpensive commercial sock yarn because you don't worry so much. You know, these are the type of socks that actually I would quite happily wear when I knew they were going to get a lot of use and a lot of walking, and I might not want to wear maybe a really, really fancy hand-dyed pair. You know, you want a bit of variety, don't you? Anyway, I'm waving these around as usual. Pair number 2. And this is pair number 11, I think, for my box of socks. So in total so far this year, I've knit 13 pairs of socks. But 1 pair was for my mum and 1 pair was for Tom. Well, actually, I've knit 14 pairs of socks if you count the little pair I knit for Jasper. But I don't think they count. But for my box of socks, this is pair number 11. So 1 more pair for me for the year, and I will have completed the knit along. And I'm amazed. I really didn't think at the beginning of this year, I was relatively new to socks. I finished my 2nd pair of socks at the beginning of this year. Admittedly, I'd finished the 1st of that pair nearly a year before. But yeah, only ever my 2nd ever pair. And I thought, I'll give it a go, I'll see. And I really wasn't expecting to knit more than 1 pair of socks a month. And I obviously have. But I am addicted to sock knitting, as I'm sure people who have watched regularly know, because there are a lot of sock finished objects on my podcast. Anyway, that is all my finished objects for you. 2 pairs of socks this week. So we shall move on now to my work in progress. And I've only got 1 work in progress that you've seen before. For those of you that are new, I tend to break my sections up into works in progress, tend to be what you've seen before, and then we have new cast-ons, which are things I've cast on since I last podcasted. So I only have 1 work in progress to show you. And that, unsurprisingly, is my breathing space. So I am knitting the breathing space sweater, which is a fingering weight sweater by Vera Valimaki. And I will see if I can get everything out of this bag here. It's living just in my Shakespeare and Company tote bag, because it's the only bag that I've currently got that's big enough to keep all the yarn for it in. And here it is. So I'm knitting this out of 2 colours of Giddy yarns, so 2 colours of my hand-dyed yarn. Oh, I've got a bit of a knot there. Let's just wind that up a second before I get everything completely and utterly tangled. So I'm using Storm Cloud, which is my neutral dark grey. I don't currently have any of this in the shop at the moment, but there is some slate in the shop, which is very similar. It's just slightly more variegated than tonal. So you'll just get a bit more variegation in the light grey as well as the dark grey in it. And then also, whoops, having just wound that up, this is Spearmint, and I have decided I'm calling that. Again, there is none of this in the shop at the moment. If people are interested, then I might introduce it. But mostly I just dyed this for this project. Okay, so here is my jumper, and I am, got so much yarn tangled up around here. What's going on? I am just about, I think I'm about 3 rows away from separating for the sleeves. And I have moved it onto larger needles now. I can't work out, what am I doing? What is going on? Hang on a second. Let's just work out where everything is before I try and show it to you, because it's all over the place. Okay, where are we? So there we go, shoulder seams and shoulders there. Again, it's not going to be the easiest thing to show you because obviously the needles aren't going to quite allow that. But here we go. So I have got the start of the stripes coming in, and I love the way that these two yarns are working together. And as I said, I've got about 3 more rows until I separate for the sleeves. So I've done raglan increases as per the pattern on each end, and I've started the stripes. And there's really not more to say about it than that. But I am really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to separating the sleeves out and working down the body and getting to the short row shaping. I'm just trying to even this out a little bit so I can show you a little bit more closely how the yarn is playing together. There we go. So yeah, as I said, this is Storm Cloud and Spearmint, so it's kind of a minty green, a very pale minty green with the variegated, well, tonal grey. And I'm loving it, and it's a 4-ply, and my base is, this is my sock yarn base, so it's a 4-ply 75-25 merino nylon. But it's very, very soft, and this is going to be such a wearable garment when it's finished. I am under no illusions that it's going to be finished quickly, so bear with me. It may take a while. Obviously, it's quite a lot of fingering weight, and it is my first adult garment, so I don't want to rush it and make mistakes. So I have to be in the right frame of mind when I'm working on this to be able, so I can concentrate, basically. But I do love it. And yeah, I've not got that much longer before I start the short row shaping for the change in the body. For those of you that don't know the pattern, that is the pattern there. So as you can see, the body is at an angle, the rest of the body is at an angle. So you do short row shaping to change the angle, basically. Yeah, so I'm loving this pattern, and I really enjoy it, and I cannot wait for it to be finished because it's going to be so wearable. But yeah, I'm hoping it will get finished sooner than I'm expecting, especially if I get a couple of evenings where I can really sit down and focus on just this with not a lot else on, which would be lovely. Okay, so I'll move on now to new cast-ons. And I kind of cast everything on this week. Having finished a couple of pairs of socks and only having sort of this on the needles, I got a bit carried away, and yeah, I kind of cast everything on. So I think I have got 4 new cast-ons to show you. One of them, though, is only just cast on, so it kind of, yeah, doesn't really count, but yeah, I did cast it on. And I will start with the one that isn't the most exciting for me. Well, I mean, isn't the most exciting in terms of what I can show you. And that is Arthur's newest jumper. So I decided, just see if I can get this to a point where I can show you the picture without, yeah, giving anything else away. I decided on Arthur's next jumper, and I am knitting him this pattern, which is called Metamorphic by Lisa K. Ross, who's Paper Daisy Creations, and that is the pattern. It is a simple colourwork cardigan sweater. So I thought, I've done colourwork before, as I mentioned, but it was very complex, and the jumper I ended up having to have multiple colours in the same row and everything like that, and I can remember it being quite stressful, and although I did it, it was a long time ago, and I kind of wanted to try a bit more colour work, but I wanted to keep it simple. And with this pattern, I don't know if you can see, you only ever have 2 colours in one row, so I thought it would be a bit simpler. Now, I let Arthur choose the colours. For those of you that follow me on Instagram, you might have seen I've been trying to choose colours for this for a while. And I was trying to move away from the classic colours that Arthur loves and Arthur wants, but then Arthur chose the colours and he wanted these colours so much. So for those of you that watched before, I'm sure you're sitting there thinking to yourselves, it's going to be purple, it's going to be purple, and it is purple. So these are the colours that he's chosen. And yes, it is purple. But for those of you that have watched before, Arthur's favourite colour is purple, and there is no getting around that at the moment. And this is kind of a bit of a yarny goodness, really, because I did order these and they arrived this week. But I've decided to use the Drops. It's Drops Merino Extra Fine. It's a DK weight sweater, so this is the Drops DK. It's the Drops DK equivalent of what I used to knit his Flax Light, which was the Drops Baby Merino. So it's 100% wool with a sort of a merino mix, basically. And I've got 3 colours. So I've got the grey, which is colour number 5. I've got the light purple, which is colour number 22. And I've got the dark purple, which is colour number 21. And they're going to go sort of like this. So the top of the jumper is going to be the grey, the colourwork section in the middle is going to be the light purple, and then the bottom of the jumper is going to be the dark purple. And as I said, I cast this on. In fact, I cast this on last night because I just couldn't resist any longer. But I haven't got very far. I haven't actually even joined it in the round yet. So I am working on the sort of the shaping at the back of the neck and the back, but I can kind of show you how it's knitting up. Here we go. And this is just in the simple grey, so it's just sort of the raglan shaping, and then you do a bit of shaping at the front of the neck to give the collar, because you add the collar on afterwards. You pick up the stitches and add the collar on afterwards. So you do a little bit of shaping at the front of the neck to leave room for the collar, which I've just finished. And I'm quite close now to joining in the round. I think I'm only probably about 4 or 5 rows away from joining in the round, which would be nice because there'll be no more purling. It's a DK weight, so hopefully this should knit up quite quickly. And it's fine. Yeah, I've said before, this is fine to work with. I enjoyed working with it with Arthur's. It's a little bit splitty. I mean, you can kind of see at the end there that the fibres have kind of split very easily. So when you're working with it, it is a little bit splitty. So if that is something that annoys you, then bear that in mind with this wool. But I don't mind too much. It doesn't seem to interfere too much when I'm working with it anyway. But yeah, so that's coming along and it's just been cast on. And as I said, it's a bit of a yarny goodness as well because the yarn arrived and there was quite a bit of yarn. He's getting bigger now. I'm knitting the age 4 size. So I had to get three balls of the grey, 3 balls of the purple, and then just 1 ball of the light purple. And hopefully that'll be enough and I won't have the same grey dramas that I had with his Flax Light where I ran out. So yeah, so that is Arthur's Metamorphic, which, as I said, is a pattern by Paper Daisy Creations, Lisa K. Ross. It's a paid-for pattern on Ravelry. And she's done quite a lot of patterns as well. And I just literally searched Ravelry for jumpers and I found this pattern and I really liked it. And then I sort of looked at her patterns and I was suddenly like, oh, I recognise that one, I recognise that one. And off the top of my head right now, I can't remember which ones I'm thinking of. But yeah, you'll probably recognise some of them if you looked her up. Okay, so moving on to my next new cast on. And let's keep on the theme of Arthur for a minute. And I cast Arthur on a pair of socks. I've been promising him these socks for the longest time. And the yarn has just been sitting in my stash, not getting cast on. So I finally cast them on. But, oh, I've just dropped that. These have been living in the naughty corner for the last couple of days because I had got a finished sock. I had finished one sock and then I tried it on Arthur and it was a bit too short. So I had to rip it out. And then I put my needles in the wrong way when I picked up the stitches. So I then had to transfer them onto other needles, and it's just, oh, it was this morning. I got up with Arthur this morning at 7 o'clock or whenever it was, and while he was sat watching a bit of TV, I sorted it out and started. So I think I am now at the point where I can start the toe decreases. I think I've got there now. But this is obviously, this is not attached to the ball of wool because I'd finished it and then it was too short. I should really have checked it on his foot before I kitchened the toe. Kitchened the toe. But here we go. So this is Arthur's sock in progress. And this is in Knit Picks Felici. So it's a self-striping sock yarn. I've just stuck in a Drops Fable heel because I didn't want to break up the stripe. And again, I've done a short row heel with this. I kind of made it up a little bit. I wasn't quite sure how many stitches to go down to because I'm not really following a pattern for this. So as I mentioned last week, I had Jasper's socks that I was knitting, and I used Mina Phillips' Knitting Expat. She sort of put on her Instagram page a little recipe for how she knit Layla's baby socks, her little girl's baby socks, and I used those for Jasper. And I kind of adapted that for this. So it's kind of based on that, but obviously I've put more stitches on and I've done a slightly longer leg, and I've just kind of guessed on the length and things like that. But the fit for the width seems fine. It's a little bit loose around his leg, but then he's skinny, so he's got slightly skinny legs, but it fits nicely around his foot. Because although he's skinny, he's got quite big feet. But yeah, so this one is nearly finished. And as I said, the yarn is Knit Picks Felici. I didn't cake it up or anything. I'm quite happy working out of these kind of balls. It's Knit Picks Felici. So it is sort of a light yellow, dark yellow, light purple, dark purple, light blue, dark blue stripes. And it's in the toucan colourway, and I've dropped it again. And I've dropped the yarn again. Oh well, that can stay down there now. So yeah, Knit Picks Felici in the toucan colourway. And I've never worked with Knit Picks Felici before. It's very, very popular. And it's a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, fingering weight yarn. It's commercial sock yarn, but it is very, very soft. Really, really, really lovely. I now want all the Felici for me to make socks for me out of, unsurprisingly. But yeah, so hopefully these will be finished next time. I don't know if you could hear me when I went down there. Hopefully these will be finished next time I podcast. But we will see. Depends whether they start to behave themselves. And yeah. Oh, that sounds like Jasper might have woken up. Excuse the screaming baby if you can hear that a second. But yeah, so those will be hopefully finished. Now that I know how long I need to knit the foot, the next one will be much easier. Right, I'm going to pause here for a couple of minutes while I go and check on Jasper and see if he'll go back to sleep. Okay, hello again. Sorry about that. Slight change of position and a little co-host. However, I have brought the high chair in, and as you can see, he has got a snack. So hopefully this should still go smoothly. It turns out he has filled his nappy. Lovely. So that's what woke him up. But oh well. So yeah, so we might get a little bit of background baby noise, I'm afraid. But for those of you who haven't met him before, this is Jasper. Can you say hello, Jasper? Can you say hello? No? Just going to eat your rice cakes. Okay. And as I said before, Jasper is 11 months old. In fact, he's 11 months old today. And he's quite interested in seeing himself on the screen. Okay, so where was I? I think I just finished showing you Arthur's socks. So let's move on to my next work in progress, which is... Let's go for this one here. So this is for Tom, and that's my husband. And I am knitting him the Violet Waffles hat, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's a really simple pattern. I've not knit it before, but yeah, it's very, very simple. It's basically a broken rib, I think. At least I think that's the term for it. And I'm knitting this out of River Knits. And this is a yarn that I picked up at Fibre East. He chose it himself at Fibre East. And it's gorgeous, isn't it? Really, really autumnal colours. These are just Tom's kind of colours. And I've got the label there, so it's River Knits. It's 100% superwash blue faced Leicester, and the colourway is Indian Giant Squirrel, which I think is also one of the things that drew him to it. He really liked that, and actually there's her Etsy shop just there. And they live on a canal boat and dye yarn on a canal boat. I think that's fascinating. And they have lots of gorgeous, gorgeous colourways. So as I said, this is a Violet Waffles hat for Tom, and here it is. It doesn't look much yet. I've just started the pattern. Let's see if I can open it up a little bit. You might just be able to see. I mean, the pattern's not going to show up very well in this yarn because this is a very... Oh, come on, what's going on? This is a very sort of variegated yarn, but I'm kind of aiming for it to just be a texture more than anything. But it's knitting up beautifully. For some reason we've suddenly gone really, really, really bright in here and everything's getting completely washed out. But, okay. But it's lovely. Yeah, it's a really, really, really lovely colourway. Come on, stop focusing on Jasper and focus on the hat. It doesn't want to focus on the hat because you can see Jasper's face. There we go. So yeah, really, really, really lovely. And this is a DK weight, so hopefully this should be quite quick to knit up. This is kind of my mindless knitting at the moment. I've been taking this to work for my breaks, and it's just very, very simple. Very, very simple knitting. Hello, we know you're there. We can see you. Yes, you have got a mucky face. A very, very mucky face. Yeah. Yeah, so that is Tom's hat. He chose the yarn himself and he helped me choose the pattern. But yeah, just a really lovely mindless kind of knit for when I'm at work, which I will talk about a bit later. So yeah, I don't think I've got much more to say about that. It's a hat. It's going to be a hat. Yeah, River Knits is the yarn which I mentioned, and they have an Etsy shop. And yeah, it's 100% BFL. I said all this, didn't I? In DK way. It's living in my Owl About Yarn project bag with the little owls on it. It's quite a fun project bag. Okay, so then my last new cast on. Hungry. He's wolfing down these rice cakes. It is, well, I guess it is 11:30, so not quite, nearly lunchtime. It's later than I thought it was, little man. Right, okay, my last work in progress. Just living in my cactus bag. Just give you one more of these. These are the Central Park socks, which is the next pattern number 6 in the New York sock collection, which, as I said, is the pattern by Mina Phillips of Knitting Expat. So this is pattern number 6 of 7, and I'm at the point where I'm ready to put the heel in. So let's show you the sock first. Oh, so this is a kind of an eyelet pattern. There we go. It's really simple, really fun, and as with all her socks, you only do the pattern on the front of the leg. And as I said, I'm at the point where I'm ready to put the heel in. I haven't put the heel in because I thought to myself, well, it'll be easier to show it on the podcast without the heel in, which it is. So yeah, really fun. This is the Central Park. So if I put it on my hand, and you'll be able to see the pattern opened up a little bit. There we go. if it'll focus, because Jasper's face is there. Let's do. Come on, camera. There we go. So yeah, just a really fun little eyelet pattern, really simple to do. All of her patterns have been simple, which is nice. Yeah, they don't involve too much concentration, although there's a bit of pattern, it's not overly complicated. So I've really, really enjoyed it. And the yarn is by Paper Stories, and it's her Shell Cottage colourway. And again, this was another Fibre East purchase. And it's a 75% BFL, 25% nylon. So it's a little bit, it's not as soft as a merino, but it's still lovely to work with. And there you go, I'll show you the cake. I don't know how well these colours are going to come out on the screen because, oh no, that's not too bad. It's kind of blues and sort of sandy peachy pinks. And it's knitting up beautifully with lovely pops of, there we go, lovely pops of dark blue coming in every so often. Really lovely. And it's a Harry Potter reference for anyone that doesn't know Harry Potter. It's, Shell Cottage is the name of the house that Fleur and Bill moved to, and where they go and visit them during, is it the last book? Yeah, it must be during Deathly Hallows. I think. It's been a while since I've read the books or seen the films, I have to say. But yeah, so they are my Central Park socks, and as I said, number 6. So there's one more which I can't remember the name of. No, I can't remember the name of the last pattern, but there is one more pattern, and then I will have caught up. But then these will get a heel in sometime this week. Whether they'll be finished by the next time I podcast, I don't know. What are you after? Hey? Can you tell Arthur has been playing with stickers? This is a planet. No, it's like a galaxy sticker. I don't know. He had a load of space stickers, and they've been stuck on absolutely everything around the house. It's driving me slightly insane. Yeah, but that's my last new cast on. So yeah, I cast on what? 2 pairs of socks, a hat, and a kid's jumper. Oops. Nah, not really. It's nice. I like a bit of variety. I get bored if I knit on the same thing all the time. It's nice to have a bit of variety, and it's nice to have. So I like having my breathing space for the evenings when I'm sitting down and I know I've got a length of time to knit. So there's quite a lot of stitches. It's not hundreds and hundreds of stitches, but there's a lot of stitches. So it takes a while to go round, but then it is just round and round. And then for when I'm out and about, the hat is ideal for when I'm out and about. But then sometimes if I've just got like an hour here or an hour there, it's nice to be able to pick up a sock with a little bit more pattern to it. And Arthur's socks are ideal for... Yes. Do you want more? Do you want more? No. Yeah. Okay. There's another one. Arthur's socks are really simple. Just vanilla socks. So, yeah, you can kind of do them anywhere. Okay, so that is all of my knitting content. So I will move on now to Yarny Goodness. And I've got quite a bit of Yarny Goodness this week. Not all of it yarn. I didn't mention on the last podcast, but a couple of weeks ago I podcasted on the Thursday, and then on the Friday I went. So let's explain. I won tickets to the Great British Sewing Bee live. Which I don't know if anybody's watched the show, the Whatsamajig, the TV series. Yeah, the Great British Sewing Bee did a sort of live show. Now, I didn't go to any of the, they did some theatre bits where you could go and sort of watch bits with the judges, and they had quite a few workshops. They had quite a few workshops and things like that. I didn't go to any of those because I had Jasper with me on the day. But I won the tickets from Inside Number 23, Katie, her podcast. I entered the giveaway and I won, which was amazing. And the tickets were for a Friday, which was perfect because Arthur is at preschool on a Friday all day. Tom was able to come home early from work to pick him up from preschool. That was lovely. Everyone just got to see what was in your mouth. Sorry about that. Tom was able to pick him up early from preschool, so Jasper and I got the train into London. And we had a lovely day. We just went and looked around the marketplace, and I spent a little bit of money, and I got to go and meet Katie and say hello to Katie and thank you to her as well. Yeah, so I picked up one sort of sewing thingy, and then of course, because I was in London and I was going from Waterloo, which is we're on the Waterloo line where we live. So because I was near Waterloo, I had to just pop round the corner to I Knit London, which is a lovely little yarn shop right near Waterloo Station. So if you're ever near Waterloo Station, it's well and truly worth a visit. They've got their own range of hand-dyed yarns, but they also stock a lot of sort of the big names as well. West Yorkshire Spinners, I think they stock a bit of Opal, they stock I don't know, all kinds of stuff. Coop Knits. They also stock a lot of the sort of Rowan and all kinds of things, as well as their own range. And they've also got a good amount of sort of pattern books and things like that too. So anyway, because I was in London and I was on my own, well, with this one, yeah, that's why I never wear my hair down with you around, isn't it, troublemaker? See? Of course, I had to pop in, and of course, a couple of things had to come home with me. So I'll start with the sewing bits. I picked up a couple of patterns from the Tilly and the Buttons stand, which is where Katie of Inside Number 23 was obviously working. And to start with, I picked up the Cleo dress, which is a dungarees dress. And it's because it's for beginners. And she said, I did talk to her and I sort of said, what is ideal for somebody who's never really sewn garments before? I've obviously done bags and a bit of patchwork and things like that, but I've not really sewn garments. And this is a beginner's one, and she said it only has about 4 pieces. It's really, really simple. So I thought that would be a perfect starting place. And then I also picked up the Cocoa dress because I just love this dress. I've seen so many versions of it, and I love the dress, but I also love the top, and I like that I would be able to do both. I'd be able to make tops and dresses. And it says for confident beginners, I think because it's with a knit fabric, so they're meant to be a little bit harder to work with. So yeah, so these are in my future, hopefully. When I get a bit of time, I'm looking forward to digging out some fabric. I don't know whether that will happen before Christmas, or whether it's maybe something that I might do early next year. But I'm very pleased to have the patterns. And as I said, these are Tilly and Buttons, and I bought them from their stand, but they obviously sell them online if you're interested. So that was one thing I picked up. I also picked up, while I was at the show, I picked up a bottle of soak, which I have not used before. Up until now, all my knitwear, they're all going to think I'm overfeeding you. Do you want another one? You want me to put it in your mouth? Really? Like a dog. All of my knitwear has been washed in Woolite, just the cheap stuff you can get from the supermarket. But we have to rinse it out, so it's a little bit more effort. But I've been meaning to get some soak for a while, and they were selling it there. So I did pick up a bottle of soak, and this is in the Uzu scent, and it smells gorgeous. And you really don't need a lot of it. I was really surprised, because one of the things that's put me off buying it is it's not inexpensive. But you need a teaspoon of it for a gallon of water, which is what, 3 litres of water, which is more than enough to soak some socks or a shawl or something like that in. And you don't need to rinse it, which is amazing. So yeah, I'm quite pleased to have some of this. And I've actually been using it with my yarn for the shop. I've been rinsing my yarn for the shop in it recently as well, just the last couple of bits. And it smells amazing. My yarn now smells amazing. And then, of course, I did buy some yarny things, as I said. I picked up 3 yarny things. Are you dropping rice cakes on the floor now? Are you making a mess? Are you? Are you making a mess? One was for me, and then 2/3 are destined to become Christmas presents. So the one for me, I picked up a ball of West Yorkshire Spinners in their signature 4-ply. And I meant to look up the colourway for this because it's really hard to work out what the colourways are, and they don't have the names of the colourways written on the label. But it's just this gorgeous kind of pale purples and blues. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is one of their birds colourways, but it doesn't say it's one of their birds colourways. I don't know. It doesn't say. I mean, that's the colourway information, but I'm not sure which is the colourway, which is the lot, which is what, if that makes sense. But yeah, so it's their signature 4-ply, which is 75% wool, 25% nylon. And within that wool, there's 35% blue-faced Leicester. So it's a good British commercial yarn. And I've worked with West Yorkshire Spinners before. These socks just here, the bottom ones, are West Yorkshire Spinners. That's the Sherbet Fizz in their cocktails line. And that was signature 4-ply as well. But yeah, so I picked that one up for me, just to be added to my commercial sock yarn stash, which isn't actually massive. I've got maybe 3 balls of commercial sock yarn in my box. But yes, just to make some more socks for me, and I do like some commercial socks. And then I also picked up a skein of their hand-dyed yarn, which is this one here. So this is I Knit or Dye, which is I Knit London's hand-dyed range. And it's on their Killing Me Softly base, which is their 100% BFL base. And this is a DK, and I meant to buy an Aran, which is slightly frustrating because obviously the pattern that I wanted to use, I'm not going to be able to use. But I'm sure I'm going to be able to find a different pattern, so I'm not overly worried. Or I could just make one up myself. So this is the DK range, and the colourway is Ziggy Stardust, and as I said, it's 100% blue-faced Leicester. And I've used this base before in the Aran weight, which is what I was aiming for. But for some reason, I think this was in with the Aran, and I just picked up a skein, and I didn't look because it was in with all the Aran rate. But they do their colourways on all their weight bases. So I think a DK weight had obviously just slipped its way in with the Aran weight, which is a little bit of a shame, but it's fine. The plan for this is to be a cowl. It's going to be a cowl for my father-in-law for Christmas. Which is why I'm not overly worried, because I know there's plenty of DK cowl patterns out there. I was planning to make the oats cowl. The oats cowl? Yeah, I was planning to make the oats cowl by Tin Can Knits, which is an Aran weight. But there are plenty of other patterns that are Aran weight that I could that are DK weight. So I just need to do a little bit of exploring to decide what I'm going to use this for. But it will still get used for the purpose it was used for. It was bought for, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it's really pretty. He loves autumnal colours, so I've gone for this colourway, which is kind of, you can see it's got sort of the rusty browns and oranges, but it's also got these blues in there. But then there's also some undyed bits as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how this knits up, and hopefully he'll like it. And then the last thing I picked up is also destined to become a cowl. And this is for my dad. He's been asking me for a cowl for ages. And I don't even know if I've shown you it, actually. I don't know. Maybe I'll try and put a picture in. I knit the undertone cowl. I knit the undertone cowl by Tin Can Knits for Arthur. And it's a very simple sort of striped cowl. So you need 2 colours. And it's one of their paid for patterns, but these are the colours I picked for my dad. So it's kind of a grey and then a khaki green. He's quite a neutral person, and when I initially asked him what colour he would like a cowl in, he told me he wanted a black one. And I said, no, I am not knitting a black cowl. No way. So this was my compromise. Dark grey and green. And I think these will look lovely together. I think these will work very nicely in the cowl. And it's a stripy cowl, so that is the plan. And the yarn is Socks Yeah, for their DK range, by Coop Knits. And it's a 75-25 merino nylon. Yeah, 75%, super fine fine superwash merino nylon, 75% fine superwash merino wool, and 25% nylon. And the grey is colour number 201, which is Tartarus. And the green is colour number 209, which is Demeter. I'm not sure quite what I'm saying. I'm sure they are references to something. Feels like they should be references to sort of, I don't know, Shakespearean characters, but I'm not 100% sure. They could also be references to anything. Yeah. So those are Christmas presents as well. And that is all my yarny goodness. Yeah, I think that's everything. You're right, little man. You're tired. Do you want something? You want something to play with, don't you? Yeah, what do you want? My chair? You can't have my chair. You can have your drink. Okay. Okay, so moving on now to shop news. Okay, so I've got a couple of new colourways to show you. And then I've also got some information about some pre-orders. So the first colourway that I've dyed up that's going to be in the shop this week, I also stocked up I stocked up Rainbow Drops, the other sock set. But this is my new sock set, and I kind of alluded to this earlier. But this is my new sock set, which is getting blown out slightly on the screen. It's quite bright. I can get it to come back. Yeah, maybe you can just about see it there. So it is a tonal pinks and purples. Kind of very similar. It's going to be very similar. The dyeing process was more complex than I did with this. This literally just had pink and purple in the pot, and that was it. It's a bit more complex than that. There's more variety in colour. There's more variety in the tonality of the pinks. There's more variety in the tonality of the purple in this one. This is a more grown-up version of this colourway, basically. Yeah. But I'm calling this Arty in reference to Arthur's absolute love of the colour purple. I couldn't resist. And I've paired it with a bright turquoise heel. Bright turquoise for the contrast heels, toes and cuffs. So this is just a really fun sock set. And I really want to dye one up for me, because despite already kind of having this colourway here, I really want this. I want to make some Arty socks. So that's my first shop news and my first sock set. Are you just tipping water everywhere? Please don't tip water on your legs. It's just silly, you'll get wet. This is my first thing that's been added to the shop this week, and there's a couple of those in the shop currently. And then the other colourway that I've added is, and in fact I didn't tell you, my sock sets, which I'm not sure if I've mentioned before, they're dyed on merino nylon, so it's 75-25 merino nylon. And you get 50 grams of the main colour and 20 grams of the contrast heels, toes and cuffs. So you should be able to make a sock this size using this, basically. I have weighed these socks and I can't remember how much they weighed, but they're certainly less than 70 grams, and you get 70 grams of yarn in total here. In fact, I think these might be about 60 grams, these socks were. Okay, sorry, he's just dropped his drink on the floor. He's just making sure it's not spilling absolutely everywhere. Troublemaker. Okay, and then the other colourway that I've added to the shop is this one here. And it's funny, the colours are coming out very different on screen. There is no white. It's coming up with white. It's not white. It's pale. It's a paler yellow. It looks more white on the screen. It is not underdyed in any areas. These sections here that look almost undyed are not. It's just blowing out, and they are actually pale yellow. But this is Pumpkin Patch. So a very autumnal colourway. It's a very sort of tonal orange with yellows and reds in there as well, with these sort of green areas. And obviously it's inspired by pumpkins. And as I said, it's pumpkin. The name is Pumpkin Patch. And this is on my BFL nylon base. So this is my 75% Blueface, Superwash Blueface Leicester, 25% nylon. And there is only one left in the shop, actually, this one here, because the other one has already sold. Hello. Hello. Yeah, the other one has already sold, and I'm getting beaten up by my 11-month-old. You can't put my fingers in your mouth, you'll bite them. You've got too many teeth. Okay, and then the pre-orders. So my Christmas pre-orders have now closed, and I'm going to be dyeing them up in the next month. Dyeing them up in the next month, and they will be shipped mid-November for anyone who ordered those. I will be keeping them a secret until after Christmas. So January, yeah, when probably my first podcast in January, I will reveal the colourways that I dyed up for the Christmas ones, because the idea is that each mini skein is, and the 100 gram skein is, a mystery. So I don't want to reveal it on the podcast until after everyone's going to have received and opened their packages, and some people probably won't open it until Christmas. So what else did I do? Oh yeah, new pre-orders. I've opened up a new pre-order. So I've had an idea for a yarn club, and this is going to be a year-long yarn club, and it is going to be inspired by flower fairies, and this takes me right back to my childhood. And I already had this on my shelf. I can remember my mum buying this for me when I was younger. So the flower fairies, for anyone who doesn't know, are a series of books written by and drawn by Cecily Mary Barker. And they do a variety of them. There's the flower fairies of the spring, summer, autumn, winter, trees, garden, wayside, and alphabet. And there might even be more than that, but my set, that's what my set has in. And it's these lovely little books. And each fairy, come on, comes with a flower. So that is the Snowdrop Fairy. And I'm going to be using these flower fairies. So if I show you the books, that's the spring, autumn, missed summer somehow. Summer comes before autumn, but oh well, we try and forget about summer. Yeah, and winter, which I showed you already. So these are the kind of the ones I'm going to be using. I think that some of my ideas, some of my fairies might actually be coming out of the trees one as well. But so the idea is it's a year-long yarn club, and starting from December. So it's going to run from December this year, so December 2017, until November 2018. And each month I will be choosing a flower fairy, and I will be dyeing up yarn inspired by that flower fairy. And the fairy that I choose will be seasonal. And the club will run in two ways. So you can either purchase the pre-order monthly. Yeah, you can either purchase the pre-order monthly. So I just had a moment there of suddenly thinking to myself, did I reset this and actually start recording again or not? But it is still recording. Sorry, you can either purchase each month separately. So you could purchase the pre-order monthly. So if there was a particular month that you looked and you thought, oh, I really like that image, I'd love to have yarn dyed for that image, then you could do that. But or you can do it 3 monthly, which is going to be seasons. So my first 3-month pre-order is the Flower Fairies of Winter. So that will be December's, January's and February's Flower Fairies. And you'll receive one each month. And then, of course, I'll be doing spring, summer and autumn. So spring will be March, April, May. Summer will be June, July and August. And then autumn will be September, October and November. So if I show you I'll show you the fairies that I'm using for the first 3 months, just to give you an idea. So the first fairy, so this is December's fairy, which is the Holly Fairy. And I'll be dyeing up yarn inspired by the Holly Fairy for December. And then January is the Snowdrop Fairy, which is actually the one on the cover, which is that one there. And then February is the Primrose Fairy, which is that one there. So that's the first 3 months, and as I said, you can purchase that either monthly. So the December pre-order is open at the moment for the Holly Fairy, and then at the end of November I will be closing. No, when am I closing that one? End of October. I'm closing that one, and then the yarn will be posted the last week of November, so that you will receive it in December. And then at the beginning of November, I will be opening the pre-order for the January one, if that makes sense. And then the beginning of December, I'll open the pre-order for the February one. So yeah, I'm quite excited about this, and I'm really hoping that people like the idea. Obviously, it'll be a mystery. You won't know quite what the yarn is, but the inspiration pictures are there, so that you can see what I've been inspired by. So that's it, yeah. So that will be running all year, hopefully. And yeah, I'm quite excited about it. I'm looking forward to dyeing up some yarn to match the Holly Fairy to start with. It'll be quite Christmassy too. There is a Christmas tree fairy, which was my first thought, but then I thought, no, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want it to be Christmas. I wanted it to be seasonal rather than based on holidays. So I didn't. Yeah, we're not going with the Christmas tree fairy. We're going with the Holly Fairy. Okay, so that is all of my yarny content, knitting content, this week. So we'll just leave you with a little bit of behind the scenes with my little thumbsucker here. Yeah, you're still tired. That's because you woke up from your nap. Yeah. And yeah, I will leave you with a little bit of behind the scenes. So what was I going to talk about? Work! Hello, do you want to come out? Hang on, right, give me 2 seconds before I start talking about this. Let me just tie my hair back, because otherwise this boy is going to attack it. And then you can come out and you can come and sit. You can come and have a cuddle while I talk. Yeah. You've got a rice cake on the back of your leg. Work, yeah, so as I'd mentioned in the last podcast, I was heading back to work. So I've been back at work for 2 weeks now. And as I mentioned before, what I've been doing is a Saturday night. So I've been doing a night shift. I do agency care work, as I mentioned before, which is kind of just a filler job while the boys are young. It fits in around work, it fits in around yarn dyeing, it fits in around childcare. It fits in around Tom going to conferences, and it's flexible. So I don't have to work every weekend. If I need a weekend off, I can just not put any availability up, and it's really, really, really simple. So I went back to work on a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, it's been going really well. I was a bit anxious about it. I've not really worked nights in a long time, certainly not since having the children. He's playing with my socks. Certainly not since having the children. So I was a little bit anxious as to how it was going to go. But it went well. I wasn't able to get any sleep on the Saturday. I did try and have a couple of hours nap, but I couldn't get to sleep. So what I've been doing is just trying to have a couple of hours quiet time on a Saturday afternoon. So we tend to go out for the day on Saturday and do family stuff. But then when we get home, I try and have a couple of hours rest. A couple of hours rest Saturday afternoon before I go to work. And then actually working the night has been fun. I think once I'm at work, my professional head goes on and you just get on with your job. And I'm finding so far that working a 12-hour night shift is so much easier than working a 12-hour day shift, which is what I used to do. And there go all my socks. Yeah, so much easier than working a 12-hour day shift, which is kind of what I was hoping for. And obviously I'm working when the kids are asleep, so I'm not missing out on that time. And then I'm finding on a Sunday, I'm managing to get maybe 4 hours sleep while Tom takes the boys out until about 1 o'clock-ish. Oh, no, you're not going to start pulling my yarn out. That's one thing you cannot start pulling out. Yeah, until Tom gets home from work. sorry, until Tom takes the boys out, until about sort of lunchish, so until about 1ish. And that's okay. I'm tired on a Sunday afternoon, don't get me wrong, but we usually just have quite a quiet Sunday afternoon, and it's fine. And then I can go to bed early on Sunday night. But no, it seems to be going okay. This boy, on another note, is a climber. He is not walking yet. He's quite close. He'll stand up. He can walk holding on to one hand, but he can climb, and he is determined to climb everything at the moment. Tomorrow we are about to start tumble tots classes, which I did with Arthur. Yeah, that's Mummy's yarn. I did with Arthur when he was little, but I didn't start Arthur until he was walking. But they do a pre-walking class, which I think he'll really, really, really enjoy. And they've got one on a Friday, which is perfect because while Arthur's at nursery, we can go and do that. At preschool even. Keep calling it nursery and getting told off by Arthur. But yeah, so that is what we've been up to in the last couple of weeks. Going back to work has actually gone fine. Right, shall we leave them there? Jasper, shall we say goodbye? Shall we leave them there? Say bye-bye. I will leave you as usual with some photographs. Hopefully, I don't actually know what I've got in the way of photographs the last couple of weeks, but I'm sure I'll find something. Yeah, I will see you again in 2 weeks' time for another podcast. See you soon. Bye.